Welcome back to this next segment on the Indian Contract Act 1872. Now, we've already done the nature of contract in our first segment. Now, what remains to be done is consideration, essentials of a valid contract, performance of a contract, breach of a contract, and finally, two special types of contracts, contingent contract and quasi or quasi contract. So let's get started with consideration. If you remember, we have already discussed consideration in nutshell. We've just given the overview of consideration when we were doing the nature of contract. Now we'll study consideration in detail. So I would just like you to go back to the nature of contract. Rather, I'll take you there and we'll start from there. If you can recollect, we've done this chart in the nature of contract. In the nature of contract, we studied what's a contract, and while studying it, we said a contract is formed by 5 things. The first was offer, the second was acceptance, and the third was set of promises forming consideration for each other. And then we moved ahead, we said an agreement, and finally when the agreement becomes enforceable by law, we have a contract. So these 5 things make a contract, and one of the parts of these 5 things is consideration. Let's understand what consideration is in detail. But before studying, let us first just get an overview of this unit. In this unit, we'll be studying consideration. We'll be doing the requirements of consideration. What are the essentials or rules to consideration? We'll see what are the rights and liabilities of third parties. That is, the parties who are not forming the contract, but they are parties who are outside the contract. What is their role as far as consideration is concerned? And finally, we'll study what all agreements or contracts are formed without consideration. But to understand all this, we need to understand what is consideration.